In this lesson, we'll take a look at referencing shading networks. You can think of this as grouping or precomposing in After Effects terms. Referencing allows you to structure and simplify a node tree. So let's take a look at how it works. As you can see, I've started with a blank material, which will be used as a container for a simple checkerboard shader. So the first thing I'll do is rename the material to ref_checks. Grab it and drop it over the test geometry. Let's drag ramp RGB in, change the type to U, and interpolation method of values to none. Place the second color node at 50%. Next, I will drag in UV transform, which will be used to tile the output of ramp RGB. To control the tiling, I will use a node from the conversion group, which is called integer to float. The output of this shader will be connected to the repeat parameter of UV transform. So now if I want to tile ramp RGB twice, I will simply type in 2. Let's create another UV transform, which will be used to rotate the output of the first one by 90 degrees. Let's bring the two UV transform shaders together by using a composite. If I change the operation from over to difference, we'll get our checkerboard pattern. To control the density of the grid, you can use the value set under the integer to float shader. And with that, the checkerboard pattern is complete. Let's create another container and call it ref_random color. This will be a much simpler setup. All we need is utility and a random node. Utility will be set to shading mode flat and color mode object. Let's connect that to the color input of the random node and change the random itself to input type color. Drop the material over the test geometry. Now, as you probably already know, if we change the seed parameter of random, we'll get additional color variations. Now that we have the checkerboard and random color containers all set, we'll take a look at referencing them in other shading networks. So disable test geometry and take a look at seating. As you can see, I have already started with a default standard shader. To reference a setup, you simply need to drag and drop it into the shading network of another material. This will create a reference shader, which is in this case delivering the output of random color. Now you can use these values to drive other parameters, such as diffuse color. It is important to note that this is a live feed, so if for example I change the seed parameter of the random shader, the seating material will be updated accordingly. Let's create color correct and drag in the checkerboard setup. Let's use the random colors as input and the checkerboard shader as a mask. I will apply some negative shift and a bit of saturation. And of course, if you want to change the density of the checkerboard pattern, you can do that and the seating material will update accordingly. Let's take a look at the material applied to the white room. For this, I will drag in the random color setup and use it to drive the diffuse color. Let's change the seed parameter until you find a combination of values that you actually like.